She stood at the edge of the café, balancing carefully on her crutches, her breath shallow as if each step required a decision. The lunchtime crowd hummed around her, cutlery clinking, chairs scraping, people talking loudly about deals and deadlines. At the corner table sat the CEO, jacket draped neatly over the chair, eyes on his tablet but mind clearly somewhere else. She hesitated, fingers tightening around the worn grips of her crutches, then leaned slightly closer. "Can I sit here just for a minute?" she whispered, her voice almost lost beneath the noise. He looked up, surprised, then immediately stood, pulling the chair back for her without a word. She lowered herself slowly, careful, practiced, as if she had learned long ago how to move without drawing attention. For a moment neither of them spoke. He noticed the way she kept her shoulders squared, as if bracing for rejection even after being welcomed. "Thank you," she said, eyes fixed on the table. "I just needed to rest." "Take all the time you need," he replied gently. He noticed her confidence didn't come from ease, but from survival. When she finally glanced up, she caught him looking, not with pity, but with quiet respect. He smiled, soft and unforced. "You're beautiful," he said simply, as if stating a fact. The words seemed to stop her breath. She laughed once, short and disbelieving. "People don't usually say that to someone like me." "Someone like you?" he asked. She gestured lightly toward her crutches. I know you walked in here on your own," he said. "And you asked for what you needed." "That's all I know." Something in her eyes shifted. She told him her name was Lena, that she had lost her leg in an accident years ago, and that she worked 2 jobs but still struggled to feel visible. "Most days," she said quietly, "I feel like I take up too much space and still don't belong anywhere." He closed his tablet and pushed it aside. "You belong wherever you decide to sit." They talked longer than either expected. She shared how strangers either stared too long or looked away too fast. He shared how success often made people see the title before the person. When her phone buzzed with a reminder, she sighed. "I should go. Thank you for letting me sit." "You're welcome to sit again," he said. "Anytime." She smiled as she left, and for the first time that day, she didn't rush. The next morning, Lena returned to the café, unsure why her heart beat faster as she scanned the room. He was there again, same corner table. This time, she didn't whisper. "Good morning," she said, voice steadier. He grinned. "I was hoping you'd come back." They ordered coffee together. She told him about her dream of starting a small design studio, how people often underestimated her before she even spoke. He listened, really listened, asking questions that made her feel seen. When she apologized for talking too much, he shook his head. "You're not a burden," he said. "You're a story people should hear." Before leaving, he handed her his card. "If you ever want help, or just someone to talk to, call me." She stared at the card, then back at him. "Why are you being so kind?" "Because someone once did the same for me," he answered. "And because the world needs more moments like this." As she walked away, Lena realized something had changed. Not the way people looked at her, but the way she looked at herself. And for the CEO, watching her go, it wasn't charity or chance that stirred his chest. It was the quiet certainty that some meetings aren't accidents, they're beginnings. Lena held the card for days before calling. It sat on her desk beside unpaid bills and half-finished sketches, a small rectangle that felt heavier than paper should. When she finally dialed, her voice shook. Despite practicing the words in her head, he answered on the second ring, as if he'd been waiting. They spoke briefly, simply, and he invited her to his office, not for charity, he made clear, but to see her work. The building intimidated her at first. Glass, steel, security gates that seemed to question whether she belonged. Yet when she reached the top floor, he met her himself, walking past assistants and executives as though titles didn't matter. He introduced her to the room without explanation, then asked her to present. Lena spread her designs across the table, hands trembling. As she spoke, the fear softened. She knew this work. She had poured nights and pain into it. When she finished, the room was quiet. "This isn't sympathy," he said finally. "This is talent." The contract he offered wasn't a favor. It was fair pay, real deadlines, real responsibility. She signed with tears she refused to hide. For the first time, opportunity didn't come wrapped in doubt. Weeks passed, and Lena's world began to widen. She moved through the office on her crutches with growing confidence, learning names, trading smiles, earning respect not because of her story, but because of her skill. Yet whispers followed her, some admiring, some suspicious. She felt them when conversations paused as she passed, when eyes measured her connection to the CEO. One afternoon, she overheard it plainly. She's only here because he feels sorry for her. The words cut deeper than she expected. That evening, she skipped the cafe and went home, staring at her reflection, wondering if she'd fooled herself. The next day, she nearly declined a major presentation, convinced she'd be exposed as an exception, not a professional. He noticed her hesitation immediately. "What changed?" he asked quietly after the meeting. She told him the truth. "I don't want to be your charity case." His expression hardened, not at her, but at the idea. The following week, he called a company-wide review and invited external partners. Lena presented again, alone this time. She answered questions sharply, defended her ideas, and didn't look to him once. When the applause came, it was unmistakably hers. Afterward, he said nothing, just nodded, pride clear in his eyes. Their conversations deepened beyond work. They spoke about loneliness, about how strength often looks like isolation. One evening, as rain streaked the cafe windows, Lena confessed something she rarely shared. "Sometimes I still feel broken," she said. "Not physically. Inside." He didn't rush to reassure her. "I won't tell you you're not," he said gently. "But broken things aren't useless. They're honest." She laughed through tears. "You always say the right thing." "No," he replied. "I say what's true." As their bond grew, so did the scrutiny. A board member questioned his judgment, hinting that emotions were clouding leadership. The pressure mounted. For the first time since they met, he pulled back, not from care, but from fear of harming her reputation. Lena felt the distance immediately. She confronted him, steady and calm. "If you're stepping away because you don't believe in me, say it." He met her eyes. "I believe in you too much to let this hurt you." She shook her head. "You don't protect me by hiding me." Her words stayed with him. The next morning, he walked into the boardroom and made a simple announcement. Lena would lead the new project publicly, with full authority. No explanations, no apologies. When he found her later, she smiled, soft, grateful, unafraid. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" he asked. "For seeing me," she replied. The project Lena led moved faster than anyone expected. What began as a risk in the eyes of the board turned into momentum the company hadn't felt in years. Clients responded to her designs with enthusiasm, not because of the story behind them, but because they were fresh, bold, and deeply human. Lena worked late nights, fueled by quiet determination, often the last light glowing on her floor. She never asked for special treatment, and slowly, the whispers faded, replaced by respect. Yet success brought its own weight. One evening, after a long presentation, Lena overheard two junior employees arguing in the hallway. "She's strong, sure," one said. But would she still be here if she hadn't met him? The old doubt stirred again. She returned to her desk, hands trembling, wondering if confidence was something she would always have to rebuild. The CEO found her there, staring at a blank screen. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded automatically, then stopped. "No," she admitted. "I'm tired of proving I deserve space." He sat across from her, not as a boss, not as a savior, but as someone who understood the cost of being underestimated. "You don't owe the world constant proof," he said. "You owe yourself honesty. If you're proud of your work, that's enough." The next day, Lena did something unexpected. She requested a company forum, not to tell her story, but to talk about design, access, and inclusion from a professional standpoint. She spoke about how limitations shape creativity, how diverse perspectives strengthen outcomes. She didn't mention her leg until someone asked, and even then, she spoke without drama. By the end, the room was silent, not from pity, but from understanding. The company culture shifted in small but real ways. Spaces became more accessible. Voices that had once been ignored were invited forward. Lena noticed it first in the details. Meetings where people listened longer, ideas weighed more carefully. She had changed more than a project, she had changed a mindset. As for the CEO, he watched her transformation with something close to awe. He realized how easily admiration had grown into something deeper. It frightened him, not because of her, but because leadership had taught him to keep feelings controlled. One evening, he admitted it quietly over coffee. "I care about you," he said. "More than I planned to." Lena didn't rush her answer. She looked at him steadily. "I care about you too," she said. "But I won't be anyone's inspiration story or secret." He smiled, relieved. I wouldn't ask you to be. When the board raised concerns again, this time about public perception, Lena surprised everyone by speaking first. If my presence is a liability, she said calmly, then judge my results. If they're not enough, I'll walk away with my head high. The numbers spoke for her. The board fell silent. The decision was unanimous. Months later, the company launched its most successful product in a decade. At the celebration, Lena stood beside him, not behind, not in front, but equal. When applause filled the room, she didn't shrink or search for permission. She accepted it. Later that night, as the city lights blurred below them, Lena leaned on the balcony rail, steady and sure. You know, she said softly, I only asked to sit for a minute. He laughed gently. And you stayed long enough to change everything. She met his gaze, unafraid. So did you. In that moment, neither of them felt the need to explain how they'd arrived there. Some journeys begin with loss, others with power, but the ones that matter most begin with someone saying, without hesitation, you belong here.